I got 12 in my watch, so let's get going. My name is Gabriel Rojas. I work in a financial company in New York City. I'm a pretty much person that works in DevOps. A lot of cross stack, like Jeff was saying a couple of days ago. So it's a little bit of Windows, a little bit of Linux, any open source tools that we can use to manage environments, Linux or Windows. And I'm going to go over the slides first a little bit, and then we get into the demos, okay? As you guys can see, we're going to cover Kubernetes, Jenkins, and PowerShell. And my goal here is for everybody to understand what the tool can do for you, what you can do in your companies. But this is something that you guys take back to your companies and start doing a little more research how you guys can use it. There's a million ways of using all these kind of tools on Windows or Linux, okay? So let's see, let's go to the next slide. Okay, done. Let's start going into the demos. Okay. Close this, and then we're going to VS Code. I'm going to start you guys showing you for Docker. So the way I describe Docker to people is pretty much the way you want to run your application. This is the way I wanted to look at it. This is the way it needs to look. This is the way I wanted to deploy it. And everything is version control, and you can actually codify it. That's the beauty about it. And it has a lot more advantages in security, all that stuff that you guys can read about it online. There's a lot of information in there. I will have two Docker files. The first one I'm going to show you is using the Microsoft PowerShell for the Docker Hub. Docker Hub, where a lot of people publish images, is public. So everybody can download it. Do not put secrets in there, please. So be careful with that. But you can share. So Microsoft, everything, anybody, Jenkins, Ubuntu, Red Hat, they put their images, not Red Hat, they put the images up there, and you can download and play with them. Usually you get like a shell, blank shell, but you can do whatever you want to make it look the way you need it to look in your enterprises. Similar when you create a VM, you install agents and you install whatever you need to do. You have to do similar stuff to your container image. You have a label, pretty much the version. Then the working directory, start working there just to download, to install the module pester, and I do a couple of updates on the image. You always update your image when you create them. Make sure you do that. I had to install Java. The reason being, the way I'm going to show you guys is like Jenkins can connect to Windows, either full GUI or core, via something called protocol called JNLP. So it's a Java protocol. So that way you don't have to worry about passwords or anything on the open. It knows how to connect to a secure. I'm not saying better, but it's another option. You can do SSH also. But in this case, I choose that, and I work with that. It works pretty well. I'm copying from my local directory a test.ps1. It's just a regular script, just to show you guys how it works. You just get command. And then I use it called Jenkins. I make sure this administrator writes on the box. And the key here is expose. On expose, you can actually tell what ports you want it to expose to the world. Usually, you would not be able to get in or anything like that. So exposing SSH, 8500 and 50,000. 8500, 50,000 for Jenkins to communicate over and talk to a container. And then you can comment it out, but you can actually tell it the default shell. When the container starts, you can be Bash or PowerShell, whatever you want. If you guys have any questions, please raise your hand, interrupt me anytime, okay? That's the file just for the container itself. So now this is the Docker file for the Jenkins slave. So I'm going to run Jenkins in a container that's going to manage other containers or other hosts. And the reason being I'm doing this, it is because it's easy to manage. You can version control. it's easy to test with your machines. So same thing, a couple installations. So I installed PowerShell here because I want to show you how it works on the machine also. So you can install it anywhere. I have problems doing just downloading from the apt-get. I had to download it manually because it's a Debian kind of they do a lot of checks on it. So I had to do it manually. But in theory, you should be able to install it via apt-get or whatever you're doing for your image. Install pester, a couple of plugins. This is important. So the power of Jenkins, something called plugins, and usually what people do, and I will show you guys, people actually go into the console and just start clicking on them. But sometimes when they need to create a new Jenkins master, they have to do all this thing manually. So make sure when you deploy in Jenkins, you deploy plugins and you make sure you use version. They upgrade all the time, so it's usually a good practice to prove what version you're using. So you need to replicate this, and at some point, you have it to replicate. These are plugins, a couple. There's a PowerShell plugin somewhere. Okay, it's right here. So the PowerShell plugin is so able to talk over. Question?
Is there a reason you're doing separate run commands?
Yes, just to explain to the people so people can see, but you can put it in one line. You can actually put install plugins and commas. The reason being I did it this way, just it looks better on the screen for people to explain. That was the only reason. You can actually condensate, as he was saying. I installed the PowerShell plugin. I also installed the NUnit plugin. And this for pester. There is when you do a pester test with Jenkins and you get the results back, if you don't use NUnit, it will tell everything is okay, good to go, even though you may have failures on it. So NUnit, what it does let you to do is just start the XML file, and I will show you guys how this works. And then it will tell you, okay, I got the XML, yes, I see an error, I failed the build. A couple of plugins that you need for Jenkins and sending updates and expose the ports. So this is the Docker Jenkins file. Now let's go into a little bit of what we're doing for Kubernetes. What is Kubernetes? The way I can explain it better for people is, let's say you know somebody has 10 kids. So your parent needs to make sure he knows, and you can only you say your mom or your dad cannot be both. So they say your dad needs to know what is he doing. Did he do his homework? Did he shower? Did the other kids eat? Did you eat? Did he drop the kids off? So it's an orchestrator. So it makes sure everybody is on where they needs to be or where they need to be at. So for example, if they're running a job, a website, and the website is running on that host, and 90%, it knows how to move those containers to hosts that are not utilized as much. So you think about it as an orchestrator, and that's one of what I'm going to use Kubernetes here for. To run Kubernetes it's a lot of work to run the underlying infrastructure. So I would recommend, if you guys are in the cloud, like using Azure, GCP, AWS. AWS not yet, it's coming up. They do manage Kubernetes. So they manage all the underlying infrastructure for you. And the only thing you need to worry about is deploying your jobs and your services, your applications. I will go that route, you guys can. But you can install it on premises. There's a lot of stuff you need to take care of. It's a full-time job, just being upfront with you guys. But Azure, GCP, they do a great job. You don't need to worry about it. I will go that route. And you can manage stuff on-prem from there. Keep that in mind. OK, so what I'm going to run on my laptop is something called Minikube. You download it, install it. And it's a small version to do development. So it does all the things that you need to do for you. So what it does, what it really needs is you need to have installed, in this case, have VirtualBox installed. When you create the box, it creates something called Minikube, and that's kind of the controller for everything that goes on inside your computer. all the other services are containers that they run, so I'm going to show you how many containers you need to run this. So I changed a lot of the presentation last night. I'm going to show you guys how to make it work Windows 2018. It got released, which version it was? One of the tries was released right now in the technical previews. So I'm going to use one in 2019 so to show you guys it's pretty much simple. Hopefully it works. Okay, so let me guys show you now a little bit of Minikube. And please stop me. Minikube had a dashboard, so let me make this bigger. And don't worry about taking notes too much. If you go to my website, I'll put it back there. All the step-by-step instructions how to do this is there. So don't worry about like what did he do there. So you guys can actually look it up. Dashboard. Of course, I know how to spell. Of course. Okay. So the only thing you guys need to have installed is Minikube and Docker. Even though you install Docker and then you just install Minikube, and the instructions are online. It's not that difficult. What it does, you will see a lot of the options you have here. Pretty much you have jobs, you have paths, services. We're going to focus on deployments and services for this session. It's a lot of stuff. But what we're going to do for what we need to do, we're going to create a deployment file and a service file. The main difference is that the deployment actually deploys what you wanted to deploy inside Kubernetes, and the service is the one that exposes what you want to expose to the open world. So it means I just do a deployment, nobody will be able to get to this, but the service allows me to expose something called a pod to the open world. So the deployment file is pretty simple. You tell it a name, you tell it what is the app you want to deploy, what is the image you want to use. I'm using Docker Hub, and I created this image based on the Docker file that I showed you guys earlier. This is the port I need to expose for the application. The value mount is just to make sure I have persistent storage. Like, as you may know, Docker, when you kill a container, it's gone. So you may want to make sure you have the struct somewhere else. You can, when you spin it back again, it knows what it needs to do. That's the deployment, and let me show you guys the service. Service is pretty simple. This is what I'm exposing. It pretty much supports the HTTP port to connect to it, the GNLP port. So when you do a deployment, so qctl create, and I'm going to give it the file name that we have here, Jenkins deployment. Now, before I do that, let me show you guys all the stuff that actually. So each line that you guys see here is a different container, and each container is doing something for Kubernetes. This is all that it needs just on my laptop to run properly, to run Kubernetes. So just imagine running this in production properly. So it's a bunch of service discovery, DNS. You get some stuff for DNS internally, for externally, for storage, for pods. That's kind of similar to like in Azure, I forgot what they call it, but when you put everything as a resource, so you put the resources inside, I forgot what is the name, but you just kind of put everything together. This is my application, and this is all what I need from my application. So that's what happened with pods, the dashboard, and a couple of items. It's just funny. So now let me show you guys the deployment first. So we're going to do kube control, create, and then the file. We call it Jenkins deployment, and it's going to create my deployment. So, and this is pretty quick. So if I go back to my deployments here, so it actually deploy the container. It tells you how long ago. The cool thing, people usually have the problem with containers. How do I get log files? Kubernetes actually grabs all those from you for free, pretty much. So all the log files that they are exposed, you can get them here. That's pretty cool. Because usually you cannot get into a container, so you spin it out. There's a way to get into a container, but usually you will not. But you need to troubleshoot something. This is a good way to do it. So we just did the deployment, and now we'll look at Docker. So Docker PS is to show you all the containers running at the time. So you see my container running here. And I can get into that container from here. So it's a do Docker exec, interactive, and my container name, and let's say I want to do it to bash. So that's my container right here. So I do sh. You see inside my Jenkins container are running PowerShell right now. Okay, so that's running inside Kubernetes. Now I'm going to expose the service. Let me get out here. And to expose the service, I just use the YAML file. You can be JSON, but I usually recommend people use YAML because you can actually, with YAML, you can actually have comments on it. So it's good to comment your code. I'm not a fan of JSON really, so for that reason. So now I create a service. Okay. So if we go back to the dashboard, we go into services. So we see the Jenkins servers, and we see all my internal endpoints that I have exposed right now. You get a host IP that's only accessible within Kubernetes, so I cannot get to that IP at all from my laptop. So I had to use a pod endpoint to get into it. So let's get into the way you can find that out. kubectl cluster info. No, I'm doing something wrong. Cluster IP right here. And the port, I need to get information for the port because the port that they expose is random. And the reason being they expose you a random port instead of the one you gave is because the pods can move to different hosts if the host dies. And you don't want to interfere with something that's running there, so it's smart enough to know if I'm using port 8080 and something else uses port 80, it will change the port to something that's not in use, so you don't get conflicts. That's another good thing about it. So I'm going to get that information now. So kube control, get service. So you guys see a mapping. So you see how it's mapping 8080 to 30846. The 31,000 port right here, that port is the GNLP port. And you have to make sure that's not random for security reasons, because it can change on Jenkins. I will show all this in a few, but that's one of the key things when you're working with this. Make sure the port is actually always the same one. To communicate over. So I'm going to grab the port. Let's see. And the IP that I have. That's not the right IP. Okay, let's see what happened. 10.104, 39, 181. That's cool. Yes, thank you. Please work. It's taking too long. Let's see what's going on. 3846. Let me see, I have notes in here just in case this was going to happen. using, let me check really quick. Let's see what's going on. I'm most likely using the wrong IP. Yeah, I'm using the right. I'm using the right IP. 10.104.39.199. 30. 10.104. Let me see what's the heck's going on. 10.104.39. This is my internal IP. Make sure the container started properly. Hold on, let me see. Let me do this. Just going to see if that's the correct, I think it's the correct IP. I just want to make sure I can telnet to it. 30.46. Okay, so that's not right. And I just did this now, like 5 minutes, like 10 minutes ago, first time. Like, really. I know why. I may be using the wrong IP. Just 1 second here. It's 101, let me close. Yeah, it's IP address of the Minikube. It's because I'm using Minikube, I had to use the IP address of the Minikube. So the first thing when you get, this is the first time Jenkins started up, you just need to install it. And even you run it from the container itself, you do Docker run at the container. This is what you get. You need to get that administrator password. And the good thing about here is when I showed you guys before, is you go to deployment and go to logs. There is the secret. There's only one time, so don't worry about it. It's on the screen. It will never work again. It doesn't do anything crazy. You copy and paste it there. Continue. Now. It will ask you to configure for the first time. It will ask you to configure, put the admin stuff. It's offline right now because of the internet, but if you need to install more plugins, you can do it from there. Just going to do admin. Email address, save and finish, and start using Jenkins. So forget about Kubernetes. What we just see right now, that's what it takes to do this. You just pretty much a minute to set this up. And now let's start creating jobs. So the way Jenkins works, and before we go there, if I forget, what I told you guys to forget about the security, the port. You go to global security, and TCP port for GNLP. I'm just going to change it for 31,000. And the reason I didn't use 50,000, Kubernetes by default Minikube doesn't let you expose ports above 30,000 something. So I had to change it to 31,000. If there's a way to make it work with 50,000, but you had to make configuration changes. I didn't want to worry about it right now. So that's the first thing you need to do. So the good thing here is that you can either run jobs on the master, or you can have workers. It's better to run the jobs on the workers than the master. Because if the master is serving a lot of different jobs, it may get bogged down. So you usually want to spin at different containers to do your job, or at different hosts to do your jobs. So now we're going to configure one of the Windows host now. So the first thing we need to do is when you go to Manage Jenkins, then you go to Manage Nodes. You see your master, and then you do new nodes. I'm going to call it Windows 2019. Check permanent agent. the description, the number of securities is how many jobs can you run at the same time. So you can do one, I don't know, 10, whatever. The remote root directory, it's pretty much tell you, is where it puts all the files that Jenkins creates. So it's all your logs, all that stuff, and it goes grab it from there. So you have like a security, a company that cares a lot of security and they send the logs to certain places. You can actually point them there, or you can get the logs to your whatever you guys use for monitoring in your companies. So in this case, I actually put it on the C Jenkins. I created a folder there. The label is important. This is how it knows when you create a job. You tell it, I want to run this job on this node. Because if you have something that's only Unix, Linux, and now, let's say you need to run Python and it's Python running on Linux, you may want to make sure you point it to the right place. Okay? So Windows 2019. Use this, I'll leave the defaults in here and just save it. So we just created here. Now we have to make sure it communicates over. You can actually, what I'm going to show you is the GUI version, but you can see the command, and you can do it via command line, via DSC when you configure your nodes or chef, whatever. If you know your parameters, you can do this via that way, so you don't need to log into a box. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay, so I'm just going to open the browser, and I'm going to go to that. Let me open it here first in Chrome. So let me go to that IP and the port. So I can remember the port. 3846. So to, of course, I'm going to copy. I just want to make sure it opens. What I had done here beforehand, to not do this in production or whatever, the firewall is disabled on 2019. The firewall USC, I think, put it at the minimum. Install Java. So Java has actually installed. You can, by default, you can let it be the default. I usually like to control it. So in this case, Java is installed on C Java. And it's the installation you download from the internet from java.com. Do the offline installer. There is something here that you guys need to be aware of when you guys doing this. When I started doing this, it took me like a whole day to figure out why it wasn't working. And I said this will never work because it's Windows. I was actually blaming Windows. It was actually my fault. See all your downloads. So you guys see here. So that version is the 32-bit version of it. If you're trying to use PowerShell, it will not work with 64. It will give you a bunch of errors. So make sure you download the offline version 64-bit. So that way you can make sure PowerShell goes over 64-bit. That's what you're using by default. If you need stuff for 32-bit, just use 32. But usually I find better to use the 64-bit version for that. Make sure that's a good thing. And let me just get this copy and paste here. And I go back to my notes. Let me manage plugins. I'm sorry, not manage plugins. Manage notes. So you click on it. I just did. You see here, it will give you to install it from the browser, but you can create a service. If you want to do this via DSC or Chef or whatever, this is the command that you pretty much will need for that. And the only thing you will need to change depending on this will need to be parameterized based on the label name that you have. Go ahead.
That's dynamic, right? Like that doesn't exist until you've clicked on.
No, that doesn't exist until you click you have to create the node first.
How would you automate this if you didn't want to go onto the?
On the node, so I want to show you Jenkins. The good thing about Jenkins, what I show you is because step by step, but there's something called a Jenkins file, and you can put everything in code, and you can version control that too. So this is pretty much what you need. So what I'm going to do is launch in here. It's going to launch Java. And don't show this up again. This is a demo. And it will try to communicate over there. Try protocol. And hopefully this works. Yeah, connected, right, finally. It's a pain in the neck to get this part working. And the reason being is because of the port, what I told you guys about the port expose. After it gets this, you guys click on File. You guys can see Install as a Service. So this is a good thing about it. But you can create a service. There's a command, a PowerShell command on 29. I think it's on 2016 too. Create a service, and you can use that one and just pass whatever you guys need. So this will create a service, and now if we look back to our, here's better. So if I do a refresh, this should be not red. In sync, sync. Okay, so you guys see right there, it's actually talking right now. So let's test this really quick. So to create a job, use a new item. You guys want to, so the freestyle project is pretty manual. The pipeline is what you want to learn. Pipeline is, you need to know Groovy. It's not that much different from PowerShell. But this is how it comes, like you have to become a cross-stack engineer. I don't know Groovy, so I cannot copy and paste from the internet. It works for me. So I'm just telling you what, it works for like, just look for examples. Look for examples online. A lot of people have written stuff already. So you know a language, Google it, paste it, and see what happens. That's the way I've been learning this stuff. Don't.
The pipeline syntax too within Jenkins that'll give you examples on doing certain steps.
Oh yeah, that's true too. So you got examples of stuff. I will show you guys that last, and you guys see like, this is not that difficult. Maybe it's difficult for me. So I'm just going to call it test for now. There is the restrict where this project can run. So it will autocomplete. So in this case, we have 2019. And make sure you remove space. Actually do that. So that's the way it should look. It should look when it's actually talking fine. And the good thing how let's add a build step, and you want to use bash, there's Windows bash in there. I never use it, but let's do something simple. Can command and apply and save the job. So this would actually go PowerShell over Java. And if I build now, and hopefully this works. If not, we figure it out. So you will see. Yeah, this thing was quick, actually. Wow. You will get all the results in there, like that. So now just imagine, and this is where, just imagine, I just run a command over there. So imagine what you can do for this now. You can schedule stuff from Jenkins. You can, let's say you had Deacon jobs. You want something run Deacons every Friday. Dump it in here, schedule it. You can pass parameters on the jobs. Let's say you want to build servers. Hey, this is a good place to build. You don't have a centralized place to build servers. This is a good place to build servers. The first thing I ask, and this is the beauty about it, so Jenkins has a credential store. Let me see if it's configure. You see credentials here. So if I add credentials, you can add different type of credentials, and you can add them here. So you can add your SSH keys, all that stuff. It's obfuscated on the database. It doesn't rotate, but you can actually, you have something like HashiCorp or Vault server, or whatever you keep your secrets on, and you have an API, it can go reach to API, encrypt it in here, and then you pass it down to your commands. So you can do it different ways. This is easy. You need like a simple authentication. If you guys are going to use OpenSSH, just put your keys in here. Just make sure you take the measurements to rotate those keys and be. It's obfuscated, so it's encrypted at rest and encrypted at transit. So keep that in mind. And that's pretty important for everybody here. Because now on is everything. Our job is security. I think every company now, security is the number one priority. They have a lot of plugins for Azure, AWS also. So you have something. Let me show you guys. This is the beauty about Jenkins. Jenkins. Just misspell it, yeah. Jenkins plugins. Just type something like, let's see what they have for PowerShell. I think it's only one. But they have, I wonder if I can, platforms. Yeah, I don't know, I don't want to say over 1,000 plugins, more than that. So something you're trying to do, MSPL and unit, anything you think you're doing in your company and you're trying to do yourself, go look it up first here. Somebody had done it. That's the beauty about this. That's the beauty about open source. Somebody has done the job done. I was the kind of person like it has to be me doing the job, and it will take me 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get it done. My boss doesn't even care about it. Like but if I can tell you I can get the same job done and just took me like 5 minutes to Google it, I think you become more efficient. So try to use what the community has written a lot. Send it with PowerShell stuff. Don't be the one, it has to be me. You will get the credit, don't worry about it. You will get the credit in your company too, because you found it or whatever. But it's a bunch of stuff that you can do here. So that's a good thing, keep that in mind also. So let's see if we can get this working now on, now let's try to run on PowerShell core, now that we know it runs on Windows PowerShell. I'm going to create a new job. How much time we have? 10 minutes, okay. Just going to do, let's go to call it PowerShell core, freestyle job. And so the other thing I'm not doing here because of the internet, make sure you're using source control. You put all your stuff in Git. Whatever you guys use GitHub, and it integrates. So you're using GitHub, Bitbucket, I don't know what else up there. There's a plugin for it. And every time you do a merge into your branch, you can actually, the job will keep by itself and it will do all this build. So whenever you want to test your code using pester or something like that, do unit testing, this is a great place to do it. Because it will give you better results. And the beauty about it is like people will know who broke the pipeline. So there's a command called get blame, even though we're not supposed to, this is supposed to be open, everybody's supposed to, there's a command called get blame, so you know who broke it. So even though it's supposed to be open and no blame and nothing, it's a funny command. And then what we do here is a little bit different. Windows PowerShell will not work. So you have to do bash. And what is my bash? Execute. Oh, this is great. I think. Oh, execute shell. The default shell is something, is corn shell, it's not bash. So you have to make sure you do pound, exclamation point, bin bash, whatever. So keep that in mind. I have a couple of experiences with that. So you do polish command, and let's do, I think the syntax is like this. You know what? I'm not going to screw it up, so let me. Should I copy it? Did I copy it? Oh, yeah, I have it here. Hold on. Let's do something simple. I'm great for getting stuff, so actually, I'm just going to copy this. Now we're going to do it here. It's going to do something similar we do over there. So that way you guys know I'm not pushing it. Get command. Am I missing something? Nothing. What's that? It will tell you what slave is on. So what we yes. Oh, that's fine. It will do the default. will do master. I don't specify it. I think you can specify. I have never done it. So let me run this first. If it doesn't work, we specify. Run the job. It fell. OK, good. Let's see what happened. The system kind of. OK, so it's because it's running on Windows 2019. I'll read the logs. It's Java logs. I hated Java logs because it give you a bunch of stuff. And, and I like, you know, I don't want to deal with it. But then you start looking at it. Usually you read the top. That's pretty much it that you need. You will figure out your errors. So it pretty much what I say. I had to specify where to run it from. Let me see if this works if I do master. Yeah, master will work. Okay, cool. Green. Okay, just green. And you see what you got run. Also, you see what command you can obfuscate also, like the output, so you don't want to show something for whatever reason. You can do that. The other thing, there's a funny fact about this. You see how it's blue instead of green? In Japan, so the person that created Jenkins, is from over there, and in Japan, blue is actually Go. So you can change the color if people, you can change it to green, but usually red is bad, blue is Go. Different cultures, amazing. OK, and you see here how we did with that 10 executor. So right now, if I had 2 here, if this job was busy doing something for half an hour, it will be able to run another one. But then the other jobs will stay there waiting. So that's why you want to give yourself enough room, depending on what kind of machine you're running. You're running the stuff. Containers. Let me show you a pipeline, and hopefully it works really quick. Pipeline, and you guys see how this is different. So you have to try a sample script. There are a couple in there. I have this one that I was using this morning. So I will explain really quick. You need pipeline on top. You can read about it, but node is what node you wanted to run. So instead of what we did manually, you tell it what node you want to run out. Stage is just a name, so it could be unit testing. You want to test. First step, it could be spin up container X, or maybe I want to check if my machine has X, Y, and Z. So this is just names. You can call it whatever. And you will see. Then you are running invoke operational validation. I don't know if in 2019, so we're going to try and see if it works. And this should fail because I didn't put the file in there on the Windows host. You just apply it. Make sure you use VS Code for because the syntax, all the stuff. Let's see. 2 minutes. It fell. Okay. Expecting Windows 20. Okay. Let's see what happened.
2019 had a fancy code.
Okay. Back to project. Configure.
After 2019.
Oh yeah, she's right. You had a previous. I will not have noticed that. Let me build now, and hopefully the job will pop up here. So you see, this is what my stages I call it. So you know, if you're building servers, say install X, install Y, join to domain, do X, remove whatever. That's what's supposed to fail, but whatever. But you see, so I did operation validation, so you get all the stuff. Actually, it does work on here, and then it should have one fail because the script didn't run, but whatever. That's it. You guys have any questions outside here? Let me know. Just try it. That's just download a container, spin it up. It's just 2 commands. There's a lot of information out there. And let me put back my information in here. Did I close PowerPoint? Of course, I closed And file, open recent presentation. That's right here on top. Okay, that is my information. And on my website, you can see all the stuff step by step. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different Jenkins and Jenkins Power, a bunch of different endpoints. Do you know a front end that we can use to run it all? A lot of our help desk people have problems knowing where to go. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's other tools you can put on top of it. I think there's a tool called Release Management that can actually go and talk to all these endpoints that you guys have. But Jenkins can talk to all these endpoints. Like, it depends what your help desk guys need and how good they are. But
That's our current plan, is just to do a webhook to Power and the other place.
you can do it from Jenkins. Jenkins can talk to everything, pretty much. Everything that's, you have the protocols, OpenSSH, WinRM, it works with WinRM too. It's a little more with the credentials and stuff, GNLP, so as long as you can communicate with API or something, you can do whatever. Okay, thank you very much.